The thing is, I just go through that tech, and it's not how to run from an SP. It's PTSSP, how to shatter suppression, confront shatter suppression.
2 years ago, Finucane responded to a newsletter from Sterling Management, a church-related consultant to health professionals. He says they helped his practice, but also led him into Scientology and kept pushing for even more money. When they began phoning for more, he turned on his tape recorder.
So basically, I don't even have enough money for that. Just to even get to the point where I can do my auditing.
You have quite a bit, though, John. I mean, you know, I don't think buying more is your problem. Your problem is your wife.
Because Finucane's wife opposed the church, they declared him a PTS, potential trouble source.
They said, well, you either need to shape things up or disconnect, as they say, which they won't ever say divorce. They just say disconnect.
What is an SP?
A suppressive person, somebody who's opposed to the Church of Scientology.
Is it the teachings of the Church of Scientology that a member disconnect from an SP?
If you are PTS, potential trouble source, that means you're connected to a suppressive person and you must disconnect from the suppressive person in order to continue in Scientology. If I didn't believe in Scientology but I kept my mouth shut, they probably wouldn't be concerned about me being a suppressive person. But when I go out and start speaking against them, I am certainly a suppressive person. My parents were objecting to my involvement in Scientology because I had suggested to my parents that I was thinking of dropping out of school, and my parents were very upset about that. So they declared me a PTS.
Were you allowed to have contact with your parents as a member?
The contact became more and more controlled to the point where every time I called my parents, there would be a Scientologist sitting next to me, coaching me and listening to the conversation and coaching me on what to say.
Why would they do that, if you know?
Well, I believe they were afraid that if I spoke to my parents might convince me to leave Scientology. That if I was allowed to freely communicate with them, that's what would happen.
I would like to say, though, that as Astra's father, I was on the receiving end of this, and so, but I didn't actually know that Astra was totally prohibited from seeing me. She would sneak round every Friday morning and visit with me because we were close as a father and daughter. So every Friday morning I would say, Astra, you know, how's school? And she would say, fine. And I'd say, you know, what did you study? Oh, math. You know, how's your sleep? Fine. So I knew that I was being BS'd, basically. I could just sense it. But I didn't dare say, come on, why don't you tell me the truth, what's going on? Because, you know, Astra, she seemed so into it. I was just afraid that I would be cut off as a parent.
I was terrified of being told I could never see him anymore, so I didn't want him to say anything to me that I would know what they would consider bad.
And eventually your
because then I'd have to admit it.
And then
and then I'd be told I could never see him again. So I wanted him to think I was doing okay.
So everybody's play acting with everybody.
Yeah.
My son is 24 years old. He joined the Sea organization. He can't communicate with his family now. It doesn't make sense because this is the son that I've been very, very close to all my life. He's been close to his grandmother, who's 78 years old, and his aunt, who's dying of cancer, but yet he's not communicating with us. We can't communicate with my son. The church is influencing him. How do I know this? Because they influenced me. For 10 years, I was a member of this cult. They wanted me to think like them. They wanted to control my time. They wanted to control my life. There's something wrong here. Someone needs to do something.
Tori. Tori, good to have you on the Eric Von Wade Show.
Hey, thank you so much. Hi, Pat. This is Tori Crispin. I was in Scientology for 30 years. I did do up through OT7. I worked with PR for many years. Why do you have to break up families if people disagree with you?
Pat, what has happened in this situation, or what goes on? Is there, I guess, an ostracizing of people who were once in who leave?
Well, I don't know all of Tori's history or, what the full extent of her situation. This is what I do know, that in Scientology we bring families together. It's kind of like you're in a marriage and then you leave and you become acrimonious and bitter. Some people, however, go out of their way, not just to leave, but then to actually promote negative things about Scientology because they're bitter. And they say
you
things
broke
about
up my family. Yes, I am a little bitter about that.
I'm sorry, I did not break up your family, Mr.
Scientology did. I wasn't even going to speak out, but they kept picking at me, and I finally said, fine, I have a voice too. And I did start speaking out. They declared me. Everyone disconnected from me.
Your husband was a Scientologist as well, or the rest of your
family? He was born into it.
Okay.
He was born into it and thus stays in it. He's still in it.
And so your position is when they declared you a suppressive person, then he couldn't communicate with you anymore.
Exactly.
Okay.
They're not allowed to. If they do, they'll be declared.
Of the head of the organization is going public with what it's like inside.
Jenna Hill is 24 and spent most of her life as a Scientologist, growing up a member of the church's first family. Her uncle is the current leader of Scientology, which makes her decision to quit the church all the more stunning. She lived away from her parents, raised in a separate home along with the children of other church executives, while her parents worked in the Scientology Center.
When I was 12, I then moved to Florida to be, in the core of the church, and I only saw them once a year if I was lucky.
Jenna says after years of separation from her parents, they decided to leave Scientology, but she stayed with the church, even though she was just a teenager.
When you were 16, your parents got out, but you stayed. Why?
Why would I leave with these people who I don't even know?
Now Jenna and her husband Dallas have left the church. The church issued a statement denying it pressures members to break contact with family who leave the church. Jenna says she knows otherwise, citing the case of a pregnant friend, a former Scientologist, whose parents are still members.
She lives in LA. Her parents live right around the hill from her. She tried to call them when she was having her first child, and they were like, no, sorry, I can't speak to you.
When you see something that's wrong, do something about it. If one person stands up and takes a stand like that, it can create an army. Anonymous stood up, and people all around the globe are taking notice. But Anonymous has made it possible for all these former members to speak out, and people are coming out of the woodwork. It's terribly exciting. So thank you, Anonymous. You have done a remarkable job.
Everything in their religion. Who cares, man? There's weird religions all over the place.
We care.